constructive rest. So you're gonna lie on your back, knees bent, feet on the floor. Maybe some support under your head. And you're going to position your feet in a way where the muscles all around your hip joints don't have to work to keep your legs in place. Good morning. And see if you can slowly shift into allowing your body to be held by the ground. Sometimes we think like we're laying down, of course, we're relaxed and we're letting our body be held, but you'll start to feel if you scan through that there are muscles that are just not quite ready to let go, or they don't know how to. And so this is constructive rest. And so I think of the constructive as like, this is an intentional, this poses something that we take to intentionally release some of the muscles that have to hold us together every day, have to keep us upright, some of the kind of deep postural muscles that support us throughout the day, and also respond to all the stress that we manage. So in particular, the psoas muscles, the pair of muscles that attach at the top of your inner thighs, wrap over the front of the pelvis, and then attach along the sides of the lumbar spine, and then right up until like even the very bottom of the thoracic spine, the ribcage spine. And so in this shape, they're in this really kind of soft, relaxed hammock position. And you could almost imagine that as you exhale, gravity gets a little stronger and just kind of pulls those muscles down, slides them down from the tops of the inner thighs towards the floor. Start to work with the longer breath as well. So on your inhale, could you imagine that your breath starts at the bottom of the pelvis, the center of the pelvis, and then when you inhale, it travels all the way up through the center of the spine and out through the crown of the head, and even past the crown of the head. And then as you exhale, the breath comes back down and returns to the center of the pelvis, or maybe even below. So your breath has to be slow enough that it can make that whole journey up and then down. And depending on, how you slept, how much stress you're managing right now, it can feel, challenging to have a full breath, because when we're stressed out, when we have a lot going on, we tend to kind of get stuck at the top of the inhale in these upper registers of the lungs. And so imagining that the breath could start way below that, down in the pelvis, where we know the actual breath is not going, can be helpful in lengthening it out and starting to figure out how to fill in the bottom lobes of the lungs. So you might even, if this is still challenging, even with that breath moving up and then down the spine. You can also think about how could you get some more breath in your back body, in the back bottom ribs. And just this, if you're noticing that you have some back pain, some neck pain throughout the day, just kind of stop and dropping into this shape and finding this type of breath can go such a long way and bring relief to the low back. As you continue to breathe here, if there's an intention or a dedication that you'd like to bring into your practice, you can do that now. And then maybe you also come into a version of a really light version of Ujjayi breath where you're closing the back of the throat to create a bit of sound. And then we'll cross the right ankle over the left knee. Far enough over that the ankle has freedom to move and you can kind of roll it out a little bit. And then we'll bring that left leg in. You can hold the back of the thigh, you can hold the front of the shin. If you can't reach it and you're near a wall, you can just prop your left foot up. And then there'll be probably something pretty obvious for you to pay attention to. And that'll be a little bit different for all of us. So maybe you're noticing that this big stretch somewhere, strong sensation. And we just begin to enter into a deep conversation with that part of the body that's talking to us. And you could have that conversation be actual words in your head, like, how are you doing this morning? You know, thank you for holding on so tightly. You could relax a little bit now. You know, or it's just a conversation where your attention is just so so close on that sensation. Maybe you just start to talk to that area with your breath. You imagine your breath moving into that space. And more so than the shape that we're in, it's that attention piece that's really the heart of the yoga practice. How do we pay attention as life unfolds without just going through the motions while we follow some story in our heads, without overlaying all of our preconceived notions on the current moment, without dealing in assumptions. So in that way, we could do the same poses every day for the next decade, and it would always be here. You can put your left foot down, and we're gonna reach up and grab the inner edge of the, well, inner or outer, just grab your right foot or the back of the thigh. And you're gonna draw that knee down towards your right ribs. Sole of the foot, like it's stepping on the ceiling. And your left knee can stay bent, or you can extend that leg out straight. Last week we played around with using the wall. So some of you have this kind of visceral memory of that, but even if you weren't here, could you imagine that your left foot, if it's extended, was pushing into a wall? So much so that the whole rest of your spine can slide away from that wall. So you get a little taller. Hear all the birds. I almost can't believe it that we're actually out of winter and slowly creeping out of this pandemic. Can you still feel how the ground holds you? So when we were in constructive rest, the psoas was in that kind of like soft, relaxed hammock shape. And now on your left side with the leg extended, it's getting a stretch. It's being asked to lengthen out. You can start to extend that right leg straight up to the ceiling. Use your strap. If you don't have a strap, you can just interlace the hands behind the leg. So you can still feel your left leg reaching forward, pushing off maybe an imaginary wall. And your right leg is going to reach just as strongly towards the ceiling. The leg may never actually straighten completely. So you might have a bend in your knee, but there's action going up. So you can push up into the strap. You can even try to push the strap away from you as you resist that, so that the whole back line of that right leg wakes up. There can be this thing that happens in yoga and even in the absence of yoga, because there's so much forward folding, where you just get this pain like right at the top of the sit bone. Right at the bottom of the sit bone with the top of the hamstring where they connect, or just at the back of the knee. And so resisting that strap can help kind of keep all the muscles along the back of the leg online in a way where it just doesn't get pulled from like its weakest point. Your breath moves up and down the spine. Using your breath to help keep you steady here, to keep you level. Using maybe the sound and the feeling of the ujjayi breath to keep you more present. Give you something else to focus on. And then we'll take the leg out to the right. Prop it on a block or a pillow. And even in this direction, your right leg is actively trying to reach out longer. So it's a participant rather than just something that we're yanking on. Which, at least for me in my body, I can really feel like something shifts when the muscle that I'm asking to lengthen seems like it actually is trying to go in that direction as well. So you can play around, see if that's the same thing for you. And then notice here too, what muscles you actually need to maintain this shape, and which ones might be participating just out of habit, particularly in the belly, in the jaw. And then we'll give a little bend to the knee. Inhale, bring the leg back up through center. We'll take it off to the left. Coming all the way into the twist. So the leg can come all the way to the ground. Remember that you have a left leg. You reach it out again. And the right arm can reach up and out to the right. You can bend the knee and come back to constructive rest. And then we'll do the other side. So left ankle over the right. Roll out that ankle. And then we'll bring the right knee in. With the back of the leg, the front of the shin, or prop it up. And then we just listen as our body speaks to us through sensation, through maybe the changing of the breath. So we've been living this really weird way of life right now for like the last, year plus. And I found for myself that like, I can just kind of forget, like this is just not normal. But like our bodies definitely remember. They're holding it together for you the whole time. And so, especially around the hips, just being really patient with the fact that it might take a little longer for things to figure out how to not grip so tight. How to know that it's like, actually it's okay to let go a little bit here. And one of the ways that we communicate that to our bodies is through the breath. So this slow breath moving up and down, talking to the nervous system, telling it that, you know, it's okay, you could let go a little bit. And we'll come into happy baby, grabbing the foot. And this might feel good. You might even just decide to stay here. You can do that at any point. But then maybe, you know, extending the leg up towards the ceiling. You can move this around so you could bend the knee and straighten it out. Give it a couple like pumps like that. Feel free to explore as we move through all the shapes. So I'll give you like a suggestion of the path that we're going down, and then if you need to veer off or you need to kind of stop and just listen, always do that. It opens to the left. If you focus on that right leg, either extending it out more if it's straight, or maybe even just lifting the right foot up off the floor like a smidgen if the knee is bent, it can help to weigh the right hip down so that the opening will be more about you know, the rotation and the length through the inner thigh on that left side, and less about just the turning of the pelvis. Not that there's anything wrong with turning your pelvis, but not the intention for the moment. A little bend in the knee, bring it back to the center. Take it over for the twist. Even as you move, there's like that active extension through the leg. Let yourself turn enough that the foot comes down. And then you can start to kind of play around. Maybe you slide the outer left hip away from you more. Maybe you just get taller from your right foot up through the crown. So when we breathe slowly and with intention, we're telling the nervous system that we're safe, because this is not a way that you would breathe if you were running from a threat, right? And also when we breathe really slowly, we're giving the psoas muscles a nice little massage, because at the top, where they connect to the upper lumbar spine, maybe the bottom of the thoracic spine, the connective tissue of those two muscles just runs seamlessly into the connective tissue of the bottom of the diaphragm, so your main breathing muscle. And so as you inhale, the diaphragm moves down and puts a little slack on the psoas from above. And then as you exhale, especially a full exhale, the diaphragm moves up, emptying the lungs, and gives a little tug at the top of the psoas. So if the psoas are stuck in a short position, tight, it might prevent you from that full exhale. Give a little bend in the knee, come back through center. Let's come into constructive rest. Or if you're constantly stressed in a way where you're breathing just in the upper channels of the lungs and you don't get a full exhale, you might not ever be, giving the psoas that opportunity to stretch out. All right, hug your knees. Roll to either side, come up to a seat. Just that is enough to just change my entire day. I don't know how you guys are feeling. We're gonna grab a blanket, or if you have a squishy ball, you can use that. It was gorgeous balls that we used to have at the studio, or something like that. But if you don't, you're gonna grab your blanket and we're gonna fold it into thirds. I mean, I'm assuming that we're all working with the same blanket, which we're not. So you want something that's about this wide. So if you think about the width of your front hip points, your ASIS bones, you want something about that wide. And then you're gonna roll it, maybe just one turn. So it's something that's like a water bottle thick. Or if you can go a little bit bigger, you can always roll it again. So it's like a little football. You'll know if it's too much. We're gonna lie face down, and the blanket's gonna go above the pubic bone and below the navel, so right in the lower belly. And you can start out propped up on your forearms. And if you haven't done this in a while, like, oh, or if you had like a really big meal last night, you might be feeling that. So you want to feel at the start that there's the potential that this could get better. Like you could feel more relaxed as we go. If you notice that like you're just bracing more and more and more, unroll the blanket a bit. If it feels okay, you can stack the hands, bring the forehead down. You can bring the arms down by your sides and bring one cheek down. And then just come back to the breathing. Feeling from the bottom to the top. And when you exhale and the breath moves back down from the top to the bottom, how much can you relax the contents of your abdomen so that the blanket can sink in deeper? You should feel your heartbeat. That's a good sign that you're all still with me. But if it feels like your heartbeat is just kind of trying to push the blanket away, like it's so intense, shift around a little bit. You don't want that. You want to be right on that pulsing. And so you might kind of wiggle your hips from side to side. If I haven't done this in a while, if I've been really stressed or had a big kind of gassy meal, it's just a little hint at a time of letting go. So it might take 2 minutes of breathing to be able to feel like I can actually relax here. But there's just like every breath, it's like a little more, little more. You might feel organs kind of shifting around. Sometimes that feels really weird, but it's okay. They're really pretty liquid. They're just going to move around. Little sea creatures. Sometimes you'll feel like a little twinging in the lower back as those muscles learn how to let go. But if you feel like sharp shooting pains, make the blanket smaller or take a break. As the muscles of your belly do start to shift into more of a relaxed state, just start to check out everything else. So are your legs starting to pick up some of the tension that you are letting out of your belly? Can you relax your jaw? Can you relax your armpits? And so we hold a lot in here, right? This is when you feel really stressed, you can feel it in your guts. When you feel really excited, this is where the butterflies live. So and the digestive system is all muscle tissue. So things can get really held here. And when they do, when this area is really blocked up, that can also kind of interfere with our ability to take a full breath. So it kind of stops the diaphragm from being able to move down. If you're still in the process of releasing that tension one breath at a time, just stay here. But if things are feeling like you're pretty heavy on the blanket, you're able to relax, bend one knee, and you're just gonna turn your ankle or turn your lower leg in circles like you're stirring a pot with your shin bone. Do the other side. And you're just moving slowly so that you notice like how the sensation shifts. Maybe bend both knees and just tick-tock from side to side. And then keeping the weight on the blanket, tuck your right toes under, and then just slide back through that inner right leg to push the heel back. So as if like your whole right inner thigh could push back behind you, try to drag you off the blanket, and then let it go. So your right leg probably feels a little longer than your left now. And then we'll even it out. So tuck the left toes under, slide back through that left inseam, moving back through the heel, and then release. And so maybe the blanket is in a little bit of a higher position on the belly now, and we'll just take a couple of breaths here. You might even slide yourself back a little more so the blanket moves a little closer to your rib cage. This is where those squishy balls are actually really nice because they can almost like creep right under the bones of the rib cage and start to like snuggle up with your diaphragm. Blanket isn't quite as good for that, but it will still do the trick. Let's take 3 more breaths. And then you can take the blanket out, but stay on your belly, hands under your forehead. Just notice how it feels to not have the blanket there. How does it feel to breathe? I often feel like there's just this sense of relief, and some of that is like, oh good, I don't have something pushing into like my most vulnerable part of my body anymore, and some of that is just the way it helps relieve stress. So let's come into child's pose. Press the hips back to the heels, walk the arms nice and long. Walk the arms over to the right. Let your left sit bone drop heavy next to your right if it started to kind of move away. Then walk through center and over to the left. And again, you can replant that right sit bone. And back through center. Take a big breath in your child's pose. And then as you exhale, you're going to lift the hips up and forward, coming into a long version of your cat. Hips come forward and down. And once the pelvis touches the ground, pull forward through your hands. So as if you're trying to slide the mat underneath you to bring the heart forward as you inhale. Landing cobra, your elbows could be really bent or your arms could be almost straight. And then exhale, lower all the way down, bring your forehead to the mat, arms down by your sides. We're going to inhale and lift everything up into locust pose. So you bring your spine into a back bend. Exhale, bring your hands under your shoulders. And then inhale, just tip it back until your feet land, coming back into your cobra. As you exhale, we're going to come into our cat from the top of the spine, rounding through, and then back to child's pose. We'll do that again. Inhale. Exhale, cat. Inhale, cobra. Exhale, lower down, forehead to the mat, arms by your sides. Inhale, locust. Exhale, hands down. Inhale, cobra. And then exhale, cat. Child's pose, inhale. Exhale, cat. Apparently Stella thought that was her invitation. Inhale, cobra. Exhale, lower, arms down. Inhale, locust. Exhale, hands down. Inhale, tip it back, cobra. And then reversing out into your cat. And back to your child's pose, inhale. Exhale, tabletop. And then we'll come right into downward facing dog with the inhale. Lift the heels all the way up, coming onto the toes. And then lower the heels back down as if you could do this from the toe bones and then one bone at a time through your feet, almost like you had like a spine in your feet. So the heels come towards the floor. They might not ever come down. Lift the heels and then imagine you could lift one bone at a time through the feet to come up onto the toes. And then lower down, toes to heels. We'll do that one more time. Lift up, inhale. And then exhale, lower, trying to articulate through the bones of the feet. Take a breath in, lift the hips up and back. Exhale, bend the knees, look forward. Walk or maybe hop your feet up to your hands. Inhale to lengthen out the spine. And exhale, fold down. Push through the feet, stand up, inhale. Exhale, hands to your heart. Inhale, reach up. And exhale, fold. Long spine, inhale, look forward. Exhale, plank. Lower all the way down. Inhale, cobra. Exhale, downward facing dog. Breathe in. Breathe out. Inhale, the breath moves from the pelvis all the way up into the head. And exhale, it travels back down. Breathe in. Breathe out, bend the knees, lower the hips, look forward. On empty, you'll walk or hop your feet up to your hands. Lengthen your heart forward as you inhale. Fold down, exhale. Stand up, inhale, pushing through the feet. Good, and then hands to your heart, exhale. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, fold. Good, long spine. Inhale, look forward. Exhale, plank. To lower, you can lower onto your belly or you can catch yourself halfway. Back bend as you inhale, cobra or upward facing dog. Downward facing dog, exhale. Breathe in. Breathe out. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale, bend the knees, lower the hips. Look forward on empty. Walk or hop your feet forward. Long spine, inhale. Fold down, exhale. Stand up, inhale. Hands to your heart, exhale. Step that right foot out wide. We're going to turn the right toes forward, angle the back toes in slightly. So your back toes are angled in enough that your back knee feels comfortable, so it's going to be a little bit different for everyone. And then we'll inhale, take the right arm up. And then exhale, reach forward as you tip your pelvis forward. The right hand's going to come down onto your foot, maybe onto a block, maybe tented fingers. And then we'll peel the left chest open. And the left arm is just an extension of the chest. So triangle, Trikonasana. Your body's already been in a similar shape. You were just laying on the ground. So it's feeling a little different here. You can use gravity. Push the floor away. And last week we were actually having that back foot pushed up against a wall. So you could imagine now that you have your back foot right on a baseboard. And if you could push against that baseboard, how would that lengthen your spine forward? How would that help lengthen your spine forward? How would that help keep you really grounded in that back foot? Follow your next exhale to the bottom of the breath. And then push into your feet. Inhale, stand up. We're going to angle the back toes in a little bit more. Inhale the left arm up. And then hinge at the hips and fold forward. Your left hand's going to come to the inside of your right foot on a block. Maybe onto the foot, maybe outside the foot if you have a big twist. And then we'll take the right arm up. Could you imagine the sensation of your back heel pushing against a wall? And does that help keep you anchored in that back leg? Or even just help remind you that you have a back leg as you breathe in this twist. Follow your next exhale to the bottom of the breath. And then on the inhale, you'll push into the feet and stand up. We're just going to change sides. Your right toes will angle slightly forward, left toes turn forward. Inhale, take the left arm up. It's almost like you could pour your pelvis out over that left leg as you hinge forward. The left hand comes down. And then you'll peel the right chest open. The right arm is an extension of the chest. If you've gone so far into this shape that you can no longer breathe, you want to back out. And then you're using that breath as a conversation with your body that this is a safe place to be. So you have to first know if it's a safe place to be. So there's this concept in yoga called viveka, which is discriminating awareness. So being able to tell what is true and what is not true in the moment. Maybe in the moment this is too much on your left hamstring and you bend the knee a little bit or back out. Follow your next exhale to the bottom of the breath. And then the inhale is going to pull you back up. Angle those back toes in a little bit more. You might even shorten the distance between your feet. And then we'll inhale the right arm up. Hinging forward at the hips. Right hand comes down. Bring the floor closer with the block if you need to. Left chest peels open. And the left arm is an extension of the chest. On your next exhale, bring your left hand down, bring your right knee down. Inhale, take your arms up. Exhale, the hands come down, step back to plank. Lower halfway or all the way down. Back bend as you inhale. Downward facing dog, exhale. Breathe in. Breathe out. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale, bend the knees, lower the hips, and on empty. Walk or hop your feet up to your hands. Long spine, inhale. Cool down, exhale. Stand up, inhale. Hands to your heart, exhale. And again, we'll step that right leg out. You might want to block handy for this. We're just going to bend the right knee. Bring that right hand down onto the block. You could walk your left foot in a little closer. We're going to take it up. As soon as you lift that left leg up, I want you to imagine that you're pushing it into a wall. So it's really this lifted leg that's going to be your anchor, even though your right leg is on the ground. So the more you can think about pushing back through that left leg, the more balance you're going to have. And then maybe your chest opens up, maybe your left arm becomes an extension of the chest. And you're breathing. And you're locking your gaze on one thing that's not moving. And you're looking at that one thing like you love it. So you soften a little bit through the throat, through the eyes. Good, you guys. Take another breath in. Exhale, left hand comes down. Square your hips towards the floor. Your left leg is still lifted, like it's pushing into a wall behind you. And then right chest, right arm lift up. Bring the right hand down. Bring the left foot down. Release the knee. Inhale, take your arms up. Exhale, hands down, step back to plank. Lower halfway or all the way down. Back bend as you inhale. Downward facing dog, exhale. Breathe in. Breathe out. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale, bend the knees, lower the hips. On empty, you'll walk or hop your feet forward. The inhale lengthens your spine forward, and the exhale folds you down. Stand up, inhale, arms up. Exhale, hands to your heart. And then now we'll step out with the left foot, although I think some of you guys already turned yourselves around, so we're doing the other side. Yeah. So move your block if you need it. We'll bend the left knee, hand on the block. And the right foot's gonna lift up. Your right leg, as soon as it lifts up, it's like it's trying to push into a wall. If you have a wall, it looks like you all do, you could put that right foot right up on a wall and see what that feels like. It makes it a lot easier. That right foot really becomes your anchor, and then maybe the right arm reaches up. Are you breathing on purpose? I always think of these balancing poses, some of these more challenging poses. You can bring the right hand down and square your hips. Toes dial down on that right foot. Think about pushing the foot into a wall behind you, and then the left arm will reach up. As far as I know, none of us are practicing for the circus or anything. So like, I go through these periods of, what is the point of doing some of these poses? But the poses that are really challenging can be so quiet for your brain because you don't have a choice to be planning the rest of your day right now. You have to be right here as you breathe, feeling where your body is in space. Bring your left hand down, bring your back foot down, release the knee. Inhale, take the arms up. And then exhale. Hands down, step back to plank, lower halfway or all the way. Back bend as you inhale. And down facing dog, exhale. Releasing the knees, coming to child's pose. And then come up. So your legs are still like they were in child's pose. You're just sitting on your heels. If this is not possible, you can take your feet a little bit wider apart, put a block under your butt. If this amount of flexion in the knees just hurts the knees, you can always use a towel or a blanket and you just kind of tuck it right into the back of the knee joint, and sometimes that can bring some relief. How are we doing? So far, so good? Everybody's knees okay? All right. So, this could be a lot. Most of us don't sit like this all day. So you could be just here. You could bring your hands back behind you, hang out here. If the floor feels too far away, but this feels like comfortable, you can put blocks and kind of lean back on blocks, forearms on blocks, forearms on the ground. You could lie all the way back. Pillow under the chest, under the back of the heart, pillow under the head. These are all options. So vajrasana. Different than virasana, hero's pose, where our knees are together and our heels are wide. We're Knees a little further apart, heels or big toes together. And this is definitely a shape where you don't have to just pick that I'm going to lay on my back and that's where I'm going to start. Like slow progression, just like with the belly bolster. So as your body gets used to this, one breath at a time, maybe there's space to go in a little deeper. And something that my teacher Barbara would always say is you never want to confuse flexibility with spirituality, right? So it does not matter. You can get your back on the floor here. It's all about that attention. It's all about the presence. And we're doing all these shapes with that discriminating awareness in mind, the Vivekakiyati and Ahimsa, the non-harming of our own home here, our physical bodies. Your body physically will go into the positions and the shapes that you go into more often, where it feels safe to go. So if you don't do your work in vajrasana, if you don't watch TV in vajrasana, if you don't hang out with your friends like this, it should be no surprise that this is not a comfortable place to go, or like your body's like, yeah, I'm home here. So just take it one breath at a time. You did this every day, it would probably feel like, you did this every day. It would be a bit more comfortable. Let's take 3 more breaths. If you're lying on your back, you could just unfold your legs. If you're just kind of lean back, come on up. We're going to make our way back to where we started in constructive rest. If we follow the psoas muscles up, and then we slide into the connections of the diaphragm, and we go further up, all of this connective tissue surrounds the heart, pericardium, the sac of connective tissue around the heart, and then flows up into some of the muscles of the neck. And so what I usually notice after this type of practice is that when I'm first in constructive rest, I really need a lot of support under my head. There's a lot of discomfort in the neck, and I can't quite, let the ground hold my head. And then by the end, there's a lot of relief in terms of all the tension that had been pulling my neck down. So it tends to be a bit more comfortable. And none of this might be true for you, but we're paying attention, right? So that we notice how things have changed. Let's take a few more full breaths where the inhale moves from the pelvis up, the exhale slides down the spine and returns to the pelvis. And then you can stop controlling your breath. So instead of breathing these long, deep, purposeful breaths, we're just watching the body breathe. Maybe extend the legs out and set up for Shavasana. Feel the ways that the ground holds you. See if you can surrender down more. As if the bones of your skeleton could snuggle into the backside of your body. Relax the expression off your face. Imagine you could relax your gums around your teeth and release the base of the tongue. Feel your heart settle back. And you might even imagine your breath could settle into the backside of the body as if it had some weight, like leaves settling into the bottom of a pond. You don't have to move. So the nicest thing about these virtual practices is you could just do another 20 minutes of Shavasana if you like. But if you are ready to move, maybe a big stretch. Breath in through the nose, out through the mouth. Hug your knees and roll to either side, coming up to sit. Open your hands over your heart. And close out practice together by chanting one Om. I love the oming at the end. Thank you guys so much, because it always tells me, like, are things a little bit more released here? I feel like it's if it comes out nice and easy and smooth, that's how